Act 1, Chapter 3, Rise of Adam. As the seasons passed, what began as days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and now, over a year had slipped through the fields of Nod without anyone quite noticing. The thatch roofs sagged under new tiles, the muddy footpaths hardened into stone. Children who once cried in cradles now ran barefoot through ditches. People who migrated to Nod's lands were no longer strangers. Most were integrated into Nod. They stopped wondering how long or what their role would be. Adam moved in silence. He asked for no help. He accepted no offers from them. At the dawn of every morning, the sound of hammering broke the morning hush. By the dusk of every evening, it echoed like a rhythm, steady, patient, relentless. Wood was cut without waste, nails driven straight, structures rose large, not grand, but clean, sturdy, measured. Everything about it was intentional, like he was remembering how to build it rather than deciding. Adam did not command others, only in times of end. He moved in silence, but every step was that of a king, and this made men follow. He knelt in the dirt to bury seeds. He bent bronze and bone. He cleared fields by hand, and still he spoke little. Adam spoke to the other races, reluctant at first. The dwarves responded first. They offered to help with Nod's building. The elves were a lot more standoffish and less willing to approach due to past prejudices toward humans, but with the help of Eve and a high elf woman, the rest of the elves began to open up and hunt for the village, selling their meat and pelts at the market. Soon after, Nod began growing in population due to its livable land. Scholars, craftsmen, clerics, traders, merchants, and finally the most important, mages. These people turned a small village at the edge of nowhere into a large region with a growing town at its center. For the first time, other races were not dismissed but welcome. Stone replaced mud, mortar replaced rope. The town began to form and change shape. The roads widened. The walls were lined in slate and timber. Children ran beneath aqueducts carved from stone. The forges, once little more than coals in a pit, became a hall of heat and iron. A traders' guild rose beside the council hall and port. Then a granary was built toward the eastern farmlands and hills. A clinic was established on the southern fields of Nod before the marshlands. Also on that land were growing talks of a cathedral, a mage town, and even a large academy. A couple of orphanages were built, one near the town's market and one in the slums, watched over by priests and nuns. Near the center of town, a stone plaza bloomed, circular, smooth, bordered by a shrine of 3 empty thrones. No one knew when the sermons began, only that when they saw Adam followed by his folk of priests and nuns, they knew he was planning to spread faith to the population of Nod. To him, his faith was never called a religion. He spoke of stories with an underlying message or meaning, not doctrine. He spoke words of wisdom from a higher Savior. He told them to look inward and that Christ would be with them all, no matter who they were. They gathered in circles, stood in the fields. He became their Lord and their teacher. A lot of them called him Lord Adam. Others called him Father. The council came next, not all at once, but slowly, replacing the old system taught by the old elders. The old men who once governed found themselves overwhelmed. Too many mouths, too many fields, too many new names, trades, families, currencies. So a new body emerged. They weren't chosen, but agreed upon. They bore no official titles. Like Adam's Lord title, their titles came from power and influence. They owned the roads, the fields, the storehouses, the fishing ports. They held their meetings behind linen-draped walls and discussed Nod's politics and growth. People whispered around the town's roads. The Tal Neath family bought half the valley. Their eldest? He owns the port roads now. I heard he bought it with his own money. The council is all landowners and coin men. I haven't seen the elders since. The council was never official, but it ruled. Though under their Lord Adam, who built and taught, they took advantage and oversaw everything else. Adam still went on. He prayed. He bled into the soil. He disappeared for weeks with his traveling. Garlin at his side, a sword across his back. Melanie with her spellbook and summons. Ammar laughing while walking with his staff. When the ground cracked, or the rains refused to fall, or the sun burned too hot above Nod, and the crops dried. All eyes turned to him, their lord. He never wavered or looked away. Now in present day, the roads had changed. Where once it was little more than a dirt path clawed by wheels and worn by hoof, now it stretched wide with fitted stone, uneven in parts, but proud in its promise. Market stalls had crept along the sides like vines claiming a wall, draped in new fabrics, cured meats, and jars of golden oil. People walked without fear now, some cloaked in merchant colors. A city had not yet formed, but the skeleton was forming. A carriage rolled down the center of the road. Its wheels clacked against the stone. Two horses pulled steady in the heat, heads bobbing. Two guards on horseback flanked its rear, silent, watching. Children darted past, chasing one another, while an older boy with long black hair ducked into a side alley. Younger ones trailing behind with laughter. Inside the carriage, Eve sat draped in silk the color of dying roses. One leg crossed delicately over the other. Her heel rocked softly against the wood, keeping time with her thoughts. She didn't speak. She just stared out the window, lazily as she gazed upon the people passing by, living their lives. Across from her, Latham fidgeted. "Well," he said, clearing his throat, "today's schedule begins at the council hall. You'll be speaking briefly with Baron Tarnath and Baron Solros. After that, you're expected to inspect the new irrigation layout by the lower marsh roads. And then, if there's time, I'll perform blessings for the crop fields. I will kneel in gratitude and pretend to care if the port roads are made of brick or stone." Eve didn't look at him. She adjusted her thigh just slightly, just enough. Latham noticed the movement and swallowed. "Yes, my lady." Eve smiled, not warmly. "Tell me about the roads." "They were laid clean this season," Latham said quickly, eyes returning to her bare leg despite himself. "The dwarves were allowed to lead the stonework, as per your recommendation. No one's complaining. Trader traffic has doubled since." She nodded slowly. Her fingers toyed with the hem of her dress, lifting it absent-mindedly as if caught in thought. The light brown smoothness of her skin shifted as she adjusted. Latham looked again, and this time he did not hide it. She didn't turn her head, but her eyes caught him in the reflection of the carriage window. Still, she said nothing, just tilted her thigh further into the light. A deliberate gift, or a trap. Latham coughed and straightened his collar. The academy is still in the drafting phase, but the council believes it'll be fully constructed within 2 years. It's meant to house scholars, martial instructors, mages, even healers. "Will they still charge coin to teach the poor children?" Eve asked, her tone now cool. "No, that's been amended. The slums are exempt, thanks to Lord Popo's intervention, though it's more than likely they'll be made to work and do tasks to help pay off their debt to the academy." Eve smiled again, this one softer. "Good. It's better than nothing, I guess." The carriage slowed as the council square came into view. The building had 2 stone towers flanking the entry courtyard, tall, narrow, half-covered in creeping ivy, and draped with the crimson and black banner of Nod. The courtyard itself was clean, paved with lighter cobblestone, and framed by trimmed hedges and empty stone planters awaiting flowers. A few guards opened the wooden archway doors as the carriage stopped. Latham dismounted first, then turned and offered his hand. Eve took it, stepping down in one graceful motion, her body light, dress fluttering just enough to make Latham avert his gaze, only to catch it again with a side glance. She didn't speak, but the smirk playing at her lips said everything. Inside, the council hall was wide and dark, its wooden beams thick. A marble dome overhead filled with gentle patterns across the tiles. There were steps leading to the upper chambers, where offices lined the walls. Velvet curtains draped high archways. Latham guided Eve past marble busts and muttering scribes. The first to greet them was Aaron Tarnath, tall and thin, with silver streaks through his curled hair and rings on every finger. His voice was honeyed and smug. "Lady Eve," Baron Tarnath said with a small bow, taking her hand too slowly, "thank you for gracing us with your beauty today." Latham stiffened immediately. "Careful," Eve said dryly, pulling her hand back. "Your tongue might leave a trail." Baron Tarnath only chuckled. "Our markets are flourishing. Our coin vault's groaning with gold. I dare say your husband's vision is working. All thanks to you, Eve said, smiling like a viper. What about the matter of the slums in Varnell's territory? Baron Tarnith bowed again, but his eyes dropped to her chest. Oh, that. The slums taxes will be considered. They'll be lowered, Eve corrected. As you wish, Baron Tarnith murmured. You should visit the northern port villages sometime. My lands are the richest of Nod, forested, quaint. Perhaps, for a second estate? Eve stepped past him before he could speak more. I've no interest in being bought, Aaron. I hope you didn't think you could win me just like that. Baron Tarnith said nothing, but his eyes lingered far too long on the sway of her hips as she walked away. His smirk returned, subtle, greedy. Before the gaze could settle further, Latham stepped between them with practiced ease, his broader frame and cloak eclipsing her entirely. The warning in his posture was enough. Baron Tarnith looked away, adjusting his rings with forced indifference. Just ahead, Gareth Fairchild waited near the staircase, arms folded, lips tight. His beard was trimmed ruthlessly, his robe crisp. Lady Eve, Baron Fairchild nodded, we're grateful you came. Oh, I thought you'd prefer I stayed away from this place. Baron Fairchild didn't flinch. The city grows better without too many fingers in the bowl, especially dainty ones. Eve's smile sharpened. Dainty, you say? I bet if I came to you, you'd eat whatever I cooked with reverence. They held each other's gaze. Two lions in a room of sheep. Eve stepped forward. Let me guess. The non-human act still hasn't earned a pass? Or is it just a paperwork delay? He said nothing, but his silence was smug enough to answer. Eve's expression hardened. She turned back toward him, a sharp retort already coiling on her tongue. But the air shifted. From the opposite side of the chamber, a deeper presence approached. Boots with dragon-hide soles echoed softly against the stone. The tension between Eve and Gareth thinned as a figure cut between them, like a warm blade through ice. Tannen Solros greeted her next with a tired grin and a calloused hand. His pupils were amber, a legacy of dragon blood most had forgotten. His presence was quieter than the others, but it burned slower, deeper, like coals that never truly cooled. Still kicking, old man? Eve asked. A dragon does have a long lifespan. Still too proud to accept one, Baron Solros answered. You say that, but you're not that much different from me, my lady. They stared at each other for a warm moment. Tannen leaned close. We've been holding the northeast clear. There haven't been any reports of corrupted beasts for months. Are you worried about the silence? Baron Solros looked past her, toward the rest of the people. No, but I'm listening. He gave her one last glance, then reached out and gently patted her head, ruffling a few strands of her curls with a sigh. Still soft as cotton, it reminds me of Gabriel's. A few nearby voices murmured compliments, chuckling about how even desert steel would turn to wax if Eve ever tilted her head just right. Eve rolled her eyes but allowed the praise, the faintest smirk tugging her lips. Baron Solros stepped back toward Latham, clapping a firm hand on the old guard's shoulder. They're all wolves now, these councilmen. How have you been, my old friend? Latham grinned, the two slipping into a quiet exchange, voices lowering as they reminisced over days of blunted swords and bruised ribs. Then Popo Varnell approached Eve from behind, waddling forward in layered silks. His eyes lit up the moment he saw her. My lady, Baron Varnell whispered, grabbing her hand and kissing it. The slums are in working order. Your orphanage is up and running. I even installed the bathhouses you asked for, though I may have used some personal design touches. Is that so? Eve replied, amused. Baron Varnell leaned closer. And the reward? You did say, if I obeyed, I could... Popo, the thighs, and the hip. You said hip. I remember hips. You think I'll let you do something like that in front of the council? Baron Varnell looked horrified. No! No, no, no! Heavens, no! Eve leaned close, eyes half-lidded. Tonight, one touch, then go back to your swamp like a good boy. Baron Varnell whimpered happily. Yes, mistress. As he shuffled off, red-faced, Latham returned with the final councilmen in tow. Caldus Renwick, Tomek Delrain, and Jonar Pelham, all lesser names but watchful ones. The meeting chamber awaited. Eve did not linger. The rest of the day passed in a haze, whispered promises, and the weight of eyes that never truly blinked. By the time she slipped back into the open streets, the sun had dipped lower, casting long shadows between stone arches and vendor stalls. She followed the old route east, past the outer homes and grain yards, where cobblestone gave way to soft earth and the whisper of wind through green wheat.